5 Muslim-majority countries destroyed by American intervention. 1. Afghanistan. During the Cold War, both the US and the Soviet Union attempted to gain a foothold in Afghanistan, first through infrastructure, investment, and then military intervention. The United States had been developing relations with Afghanistan since the 1950s, when the country was undergoing a series of modernization projects, and was attempting to truly build a modern nation-state under the leadership of King Zahir Shah, and later followed by his cousin, President Mohammad Daoud Khan. There was a lot of money flowing into Afghanistan from both the US and the Soviet Union, and it really laid the groundwork for what would eventually become a more formal military relationship with the two countries. However, the US slowly began channeling money to several resistance groups after Daoud Khan was officially overthrown and began establishing a Marxist-Leninist government. This is where the US's mistakes began to be seen, as they allied themselves with more reactionary elements, leading to the escalation of the conflict in the country. After the Cold War, the Taliban took power in Afghanistan, and the US and the Soviet Union left the country. Not enough to stop there, the US actually came back by invading Afghanistan after the 9/11 tragedy, without a clear goal. From here, the Taliban, which was indirectly formed by the US, disappeared and split into small rebel groups. 2. Iraq. The United States also intervened during the Iran-Iraq War, where Uncle Sam's country played a double-edged sword. They supplied weapons to both warring countries. Not enough to stop there, the US also invaded Iraq, which lasted for approximately 1 month, in 2003. A total of 150,000 US troops occupied the country by force. According to historians, Saddam Hussein's rule was able to last so long because it was believed to be in collaboration with the US, specifically CIA agents. However, in 2003, the US invaded Iraq after Saddam Hussein's influence began to fade. During Saddam Hussein's rule, the US considered Iraq a potential threat to its interests in the Gulf region. The US also argued that the country possessed weapons of mass destruction. 3. Libya. Before the collapse of Muammar Gaddafi's regime, Libya was a promising country with vast oil reserves. However, Gaddafi was reluctant to cooperate with the West regarding its natural resources. This led the US media to report on the shortcomings of Gaddafi's government, which led to a civil war in the region. As the Libyan civil war progressed, Western NATO members intervened in the war. In 2011, NATO-backed NTC forces successfully crippled Gaddafi's forces in Sirte. In the attack, Gaddafi died of a gunshot wound to the head. The successful overthrow of the Gaddafi regime was not accompanied by the emergence of prosperity for the Libyan people, but instead gave rise to new and increasingly complex conflicts. These included conflicts between factions vying for power after Gaddafi's fall, and instability in global oil prices. 4. Palestine. The US has not directly intervened in the development of the Palestinian state. However, US assistance to its close ally Israel has caused Palestine to experience gradual destruction. Without US support, Israel would not have dared to act as it pleased and bombard Gaza. If we look back, there have actually been quite a few wars in the Middle East due to Israel's seizure of Palestinian territory. However, throughout history, Muslim-majority countries have never once won against Israel. The Jewish state's modern weaponry supplied by the US is likely the main cause. Although never directly involved, US decisions in the UN have always been burdensome for Palestine, from granting Israel independence to making Jerusalem its capital. 5. Syria. The US began interfering in this country's affairs during the civil war in Syria. From there, the US created 2 armed groups that initially aimed to suppress the rebellion carried out by ISIS. The 2 groups created by the US were the Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, and the Syrian Free Army, SFA. Instead of solving the problem, these 2 forces actually created new problems with Turkey. The existence of these groups was opposed by Turkey, which claimed the group had direct ties to the PKK, which is recognized as a terrorist group. To this day, the word peace seems increasingly distant from Syria after U.S. involvement. Even the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights announced that in 2017, 80% of the residential areas and infrastructure of Raqqa city were destroyed by the attack.